From Las Vegas, Sandy Kastel and friends.
Good morning and welcome to the Kastel and Friends Variety Show with Jeff. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Mrs. Goldberg. How are you?
Mrs. Goldberg.
Aren't you the famous Sadie Goldberg from Moline? Lida Rose from Moline.
Married lady.
Lida Rose, I'm home again, Rose. What's up,
Hey,
Sam?
listen.
Come on, babe.
I don't know. What's up with you?
Thinking about you, how much I love you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you sister's kazoo.
Yeah, I know. I watched your show from Friday. I can't believe it. You're so emotional.
I'm Italian. What do you expect?
So sensitive.
Well, it's I'll tell you something, Sam. People should be more like that. You know what I mean? That's the problem with today. Everybody, there's such phony bastards out there. They want to get on the.
You know what? You're so right. You're so right because people are so cautious.
Right.
They have to be so careful, politically correct. They can't say this, they can't say that. They can't do this, they can't do that. We have to watch out for so many things we say and do because of all the social media, of all the cameras that are out there on all these phones now today. I mean, you can't even have a private conversation with your sister in a restaurant without having somebody videotape it and put it on Facebook.
Was that what they did?
Oh, I don't know. I'm just saying,
Oh, okay.
It's like, really, it is so challenging these days because we have such a different mentality in the world today where everything is instant gratification. People have, this social media stuff is really amazing because, I don't know, I was just thinking of some reason today because, everywhere we go, people think that they have to be easily accessible to everybody 24/7, and used to be you could go out, live your life, and then come back and check your messages. Now, people text you, they email you, they call you, they message you,
right.
They IM you, whatever. There's all these different things that they do. I mean, and then they expect you to get right back to them, even if you're in meetings, if you're at lunches, if you're out on a date. And what happens is people are sitting there and they're torn between, do I answer this call? Do I answer this email? What do I do? Because people expect you to be available to them 24/7.
Well, that's this generation today. Like I said, that's just the way it is. And people like us, we're the baby boomers. I'm 62 years old, so we're the baby boomers. Yeah, I'm a baby boomer, Sandy. Hi.
I'm here.
She's here. Mannaggia America quando la stasera corta.
I got to tell you, it's so hard for
my
me because
God.
I'm always running on Sandy time.
You better start running on my time.
Hey, who is this chair for?
Who's that chair for?
I think we've got somebody coming in on Skype today.
Uh-oh!
Yes, we do. And we've got Dawson here. How you doing?
Hello.
Good.
Dawson, where you calling from,
I know.
buddy?
Sorry, I got to get my headphones on here.
Dawson, where you calling from?
Northern California in Santa Rosa, where it's raining cats and dogs. But to hear you two guys so happy makes me happy too. My wife always asks me, Dawson, what's your happiness number from 0 to 100? What number are you right now? And you guys sound like you're in the 90s.
We are.
Not every day is like that, though, Dawson. It's funny because some days you just get, you get up and maybe you don't feel as cheery and up as you do the day before. And sometimes, it takes a little getting like into it and stuff. And I know that Chef Michael, sometimes he doesn't always feel funny. And, when you're on a show and you feel the pressure that, I better be funny, then, it's kind of like I have to drag it out of him.
Don't believe her, Dawson. She's full of SHI. Once you get to know her, you could add the T.
Hey. But the good thing about it is that every single day is different. Every single day in our life is different. And if you wake up and you say, I wonder what today has to offer me.
Right.
then, you're always open to whatever comes your way.
Dawson, years ago, I was always in the entertainment business, and I don't want to mention this guy's name. There was a comedian. I was auditioning different guys, for my show. So this guy come in, and I don't mind somebody who's, sure of themselves, which I kind of like. And he says, I'm the greatest guy in the world. I said, well, how much do you want a week? And I told him. And I said, well, it's not that you're not worth it, but here's my budget. In them days, I'm going back 25 years ago, I paid $600, for the week. And they did like 7 or 8 minutes, part of the show. And he said, well, I'm the greatest comedian in the world. Nobody's more funny than me.
The greatest.
And the guy went on and on and on. And as he's talking to me, Dawson, I'm starting to get a little aggravated because I'm Italian from Philly, and I'm a nice guy, but what happens when you push people around from New York and Philadelphia, you're going to feel the wrath of the bull. And I said, you're really that good, huh? He said, I'm the best. I said, well, I'll tell you what. Me and you're going to go to Sunrise. I said, we're going to go to Sunrise Hospital. On the 7th floor, I said, they got the cancer ward of those kids that are dying of cancer and their families.
My gosh.
Let's see if you can let me see how good you are. Let's see if you can make their mother and fathers laugh.
Yeah.
And he looked at me. He says, what? I said, you just told me you're the greatest comedian ever. Let's go to Sunrise Hospital in Las Vegas. We'll go to the cancer ward where the children's hospital is at and try to make those mothers and fathers laugh when they're looking at their kids and they only got so much time to live. He put his eyes down and he didn't say one word and walked out the door, and I never heard from the guy again. So the moral of this story is, what you're doing is a wonderful thing for people, because people need people like you to bring your story to light.
That's right. So speaking of your story,
yeah,
tell us a little bit about your story, Dawson.
Yeah, Dawson, tell me, buddy.
Well, what I'm doing as far as social service goes, first of all, is something called the Veteran Stress Project. And we've now offered free counseling to almost 8,000 veterans and family members with PTSD. And our treatments are phenomenally effective. We've done several clinical trials, and it shows that people who go through our program get 6 sessions, and after 6 sessions of the psychotherapy we offer them, about 9 out of 10 of them are PTSD free. So really effective, published in medical journals, and we now are zeroing in on this big social problem of PTSD. So that's the thing that really excites me right now. I'm a researcher, I'm an author, I'm focused on a field called epigenetics, which is how things from outside the genome affect your genes. So when you
What's a genome?
What's a genome? We talk about being emotional. When you have a strong emotion, that is sending a signal to your body to produce hormones like DHEA, like cortisol,
right,
neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin. So every thought you have, every strong emotion especially, is sending some signal to your biology. And this whole field is so interesting because we're showing that all of our thoughts, all of our feelings, all of our strong emotions are having a big effect on our bodies. That's why, for example, social networks in areas like yours, when you have a big extended family, everyone loves each other and talks to each other. Maybe they don't love each other some days, but they have a sense of connection with each other, wind up having big effects on medical problems like mortality and morbidity, how long you live and how healthy you are. So this whole field is so interesting, and those emotions you're talking about are going to have a large effect on your health long term.
Yes, and I just went to Los Angeles this past weekend, Dawson, to see my acupuncturist because I hadn't been to see him for a year, and normally I've been seeing him over probably about a 30-year span here because I lived out in Los Angeles for about 13 years, and then I moved back to Vegas back in 1992. But I still continue to go back to see him. And the thing about acupuncture, as you may well know, is that it helps to balance out the body so that the body can heal itself. What happens is we go through our daily stresses, and just like what you were saying, all the stress factors, the emotional factors, when you're unhappy, when you've got somebody yelling and screaming at you all the time, these things affect our body and they get into the physiology of it. And if we don't take time to regroup ourselves by either doing some form of meditation or even just sitting quietly, taking a few moments for yourself, going and getting a massage, going and getting an acupuncture treatment or some kind of treatment, or sitting and playing the piano, which is very meditative, or gardening in your garden. There's certain things that can help us regroup and bring our energy back to where it's calm and peaceful, and this helps affect our whole entire spirit, body, and energy.
Well, it's true. Prior to me,
what's the commonality in all those things? Now, this is a question that's really been of interest to psychologists and psychiatrists for the last while. You mentioned so many different things. Now, what on earth could acupuncture have to do with gardening, have to do with playing the piano, have to do with meditation? Now, I'll tell you what the common thread is.
You know what it is.
The common thread is they all engage the body. It is so potent to do something with your body. It's fine to give yourself a pep talk, to read an inspirational book, try and think positive thoughts. But if you engage that positive thinking with a somatic experience, a felt in the body experience, like touching the soil, like the acupuncture treatment. There's also acupressure we use with our veterans. We use acupressure, pressure on acupuncture points, not needles, just putting a light amount of pressure on them. Right. All of these things keep you in your body, and then that discharges the stress far more effectively than your thoughts can do. If you try and think yourself out of a hole, you usually just wind up thinking yourself deeper in. But if you engage yourself in some way, take a walk in nature, do acupuncture, acupressure, meditate, do something that sends you back into your body, then that gets you into that place of being centered.
Well, Dawson, you know Louise Hay, of course, right?
Oh, I know and love her. Yeah,
she's amazing. Now, you did say something about just your thoughts. Now, I feel that it's a combination of all these things, because she made a comment. After years of being a person who talked about affirmations, when I saw her a couple years ago, she was up there on stage saying, you know what, all these years, I'm always talking about affirmations, and how important they are. But you know what? When we get up in the morning and we go, oh my God, I feel terrible, that's actually an affirmation,
right?
Even though you don't realize
yes,
it.
Right. In fact, we call them tail enders.
Yeah.
Like in our live classes, we have people repeat affirmations like, "My body heals itself effortlessly."
There you go.
I am abundant and prosperous. We have them say those things. What happens is they say those affirmations, but then at the end of that, there's a tail ender like, "In your dreams."
Yeah, right.
And we teach people that affirmation. The true affirmation is a tail ender. That's what they really believe. They don't really believe that.
Dawson, let me ask you a question.
That positive thing they're saying, what they really believe is the part that's saying, I don't think so. And so that's the part you have to work on. Now, I want to tell you, Louise has recently become really into our method as well. Our method is called EFT, or Emotional Freedom Techniques, and she learned it about 2 years ago. And now Louise has been interviewed on EFT shows. She's been talking about it. She's now using our method of acupressure, EFT,
but I agree,
along with affirmations, and that absolutely turbocharges the kinds of positive skills.
Dawson, hello,
yes.
Dawson.
Are you there?
It was cut out.
Life to Dawson. Sandy to Dawson.
I only say it once a year. We just lost.
We love you, pal. Dawson, let me ask you a quick. Taking a shot at. Let me give you a quick question. You got a very thick New York accent. Where you from? The Bronx, Staten Island, where you from?
Shrewsbury in Shropshire. I was born in South Africa.
South Africa?
I lived in different countries, different parts of the world, so I have this really unusual mix of accents.
Well, you have
Who's that golfer that's from South Africa that sounds like you?
Tyrone Power.
No, the golfer. Do you watch golf at all? You don't watch golf?
I was a little kid when my family lived there, so it's been a long time ago. I just want to say that Louise Hay has been really getting into our method now, and she's been using acupressure along with affirmations, and it really turbocharges her method. So she's into this as well.
Right, Dawson. And hold on just 1 second. Hold your thought there. We're just listening to Sandy Kastel and Friends Variety Show with Chef Michael. And Chef Michael's going to be giving us a recipe soon.
Only if Dawson allows me to.
If Dawson, but you're going to have to ask him what his favorite
Italian food is.
Anyway, so if you're just tuning in now, you're listening to us, and we are talking with Dawson Church and about this amazing social veteran stress relievers that he's working with, and EFT. So we'll be right back after a message from our lovely sponsors. Thank you.
A radio show like it. This is Sandy Kastel and Friends. The phone lines are open at 702-731-1230. Now, here again, Sandy Kastel.
Hi, and welcome back to Sandy Kastel and Friends Variety Show.
Who's on the phone, San?
With Chef Michael.
Yeah, but who's on the phone?
Yeah, but you're in the studio, so let me finish my deal.
Go ahead, baby.
You know, I got to tell you, we were on the TV show yesterday with Dale over at Keen TV.
And that was a nationwide television.
What a nice gentleman he is. And Betsy Ann.
Lovely.
And William, the cameraman. What a wonderful team they are. And, you know, they've got us, I forgot to bring in that list. They've got, our show is going to be on nationwide
television. We're very happy.
The week of Christmas.
Yes.
So we're going to be posting all those channels around the country, folks, around the country, where you can watch us on the TV show with Dale.
Well, you know,
and it was nice because I don't know, I had a thought there, but you cut me off, so I forgot it.
Your beauty astounds me.
But yeah, it was really great. We were in the studio with them yesterday out in Henderson, Nevada.
It was great. You know,
That's right.
Dale, there's a place here in town called Denny's.
Dawson,
I'm sorry. Dawson, Dale. It's almost the same thing.
No. We've got Dawson Church on the phone with us.
So what happened is, I got a kick out of this guy.
Okay, he calls me San. Hey,
Sandy, San.
You know,
that's an Italian thing.
We're in Smith's Food King, and he's yelling at me, from across the store. Hey, San, where are you? Hey,
well, in my neighborhood, in my neighborhood, when I was a kid.
When you were a kid?
Yeah, years ago. I could have been like 14 blocks away, but when your father opened the door and called your name, I'm telling you, you better be home before he shut the door. You're going to get a beat. If I was in an Italian neighborhood, and he's from South Africa, so everybody's a little bit different. Anyway, get back to what I was telling you.
That's a touching story, Melvin.
Oh, that's all right. Melvin, Mike, it doesn't make no difference.
There you go.
What a great laugh this guy's got. I tell you, we're so happy that, this thing is, we have, talking about emotions.
All right.
I'm talking about emotions.
Talking about emotions. You were really emotional.
Yes, it was a couple days ago. What was the date, John? It was the 4th.
5th, 7th.
Let's see what the date is, because that's how you have to pull it up.
I'm off.
It's the 5th. December 5th. Sandy wasn't in the studio.
No, I was at the doctor's office.
I did the show by myself, and it's just nice because I'm one of them. I'm a combination of a Don Rickles and Morton Downey Jr. That type of,
Morgan Downey Jr.
Morton, he used to have a talk show.
Oh, that was before my time.
It was before my time too. So anyway, I go into a story when I was a kid, and within seconds, I'm in tears. You can see it on the YouTube. And I talked about my mother, of a situation that happened, and it's amazing how I can just laugh within seconds, make such a flip where I could actually feel that pain of empathy.
You know what? That brings me right back to Dawson. You know what, Dawson? You're talking about how the connection with the emotional and the physical, and there's actually therapies out there where they work with the physical body to help release some of the emotions that have been trapped in our bodies from certain experiences that we've had in our lives.
There's people that die and they don't mourn they can't cry for their father or something. I had a friend of mine, and he says, I loved my father. He said, but when he passed away, I didn't shed a tear. And
the thing is that by the time you're 50 or 60 years old, you often have a huge backlog of those experiences.
Right.
And so, for example, in one of my workshops, a woman came up to me and said, can you help me with grief? My husband died, and I'm just grief-stricken over his death. So I asked her, how long ago did he die? She said 14 years ago. Now, I knew right away that it wasn't that she was grieving just her husband. It was that her dog died when she was 3 years old, and her parents said, don't worry, I'll get you a new puppy. Her grandmother died when she was 7, and her parents said nothing. Her best friend moved away when she was 11. She lost her best friend. Her father said, don't worry, you'll make new friends. So she has all of these times when she was a young child, when she was told, your emotions don't matter. Yes. And she wasn't given any ability to have a catharsis, to have a shift, to really grieve and process them then. So now she's 55 years old, her husband dies, and she has this huge backlog of many traumatic events in her life, and they all then contribute to her feeling bad now, not getting over it now. And that's why, for example, one of the questions we ask ourselves in research is, we know that about a third of the men and women who go to Iraq and Afghanistan come back with PTSD, but 2/3 don't. What's the difference between those who are resilient, who don't get post-traumatic stress disorder, and those who do?
What is
and the big
difference?
difference is usually childhood trauma. Usually, if they've been traumatized as children, they're much more likely to develop PTSD as adults. So that's why you have this.
What does that stand for?
And it really winds up affecting our lives and our health as we get older.
I know, but what does that stand for those of us who don't know what it stands for? Could you tell us what it stands for? Is it PTSD?
PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. So you have a traumatic stress, you have a hugely impactful emotional event, and like one example from our work was we had this one Vietnam veteran, and for 40 years he had what's called survivor's guilt, because when he was on patrol one day in Vietnam,
he survived.
He was patrol with his buddy Joe every day, and usually he walked on the right, his buddy Joe was on the left. That day, his buddy was killed by a sniper, but for that one patrol, they'd switched positions. He was in the opposite position. And so for 40 years, the guy's had this narrative in his head, it should have been me.
Right.
And he's now showing up with PTSD. He has all kinds of physical ailments. And after just one session where we gave him EFT, he said, I just realized, I would have died for Joe, but Joe would have died for me as well.
That's right.
And so he has this total cognitive shift. Same event, same problem, same bad thing happened, but now he has a different way of seeing it. That's what we call a cognitive frame, a healthy cognitive frame through which to see a negative event. So we help people process these old traumas, and it makes an enormous difference in their lives. That guy recovered from insomnia, his PTSD symptoms disappeared, he had all kinds of positive changes in his life, but only when you start to actually face these issues and deal with them do those kinds of positive benefits accrue.
Yeah. Do you know, it's something real quick, and maybe you could give a little spin-off on what I'm about to tell you. In the 60s, I went to a Catholic school. And those days in Philadelphia, it was an Italian school, Italian nuns, Italian teachers. They segregated nationalities in the Philadelphia area. The blacks were here, the Jews were here, the Irish were here, the Germans were here, and the Italians had their own section. When I was 6 years old, I was in school, and I had a nun, Miss Mary, her name was.
A nun?
A nun, Sister Mary, Sister Mary. And Thomas de Castelnovo, I'll never forget the kid's name, he wet his pants in school. Now, what they did to me then, you could sue the Vatican and you would have got $1 billion. You could never do this today. And I laughed at him. I turned around and laughed out loud, and I was the guy that led the pack of having everybody laugh at this kid. Let me tell you what they did to me. The next morning when I went into class, Sister Mary, she got me and she took me in the front of the room. Now, there was from first grade to 7th grade, that was the elementary school, from 1st to 7th. And then when you went to 8th grade, you went to 8th, 9th, 10th, you went to the junior high schools. They put a kerchief on me, they put lipstick on me and eyeshadow, and they walked me into every single classroom and had those kids laugh at me. Now, today, that emotional scars, you could have sued the school district for billions. Those days when I went home, my father cracked me on my butt and says, now see, how do you like it by laughing at that kid? Now, I was very fortunate that it rolled off my back, but the average guy that would have scarred them, to be dressed with a kerchief, they put with some eyeshadow, whatever that they put on my eyes, I remember as a kid, and walked me into every room from 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th, 7th schools, and I stood in the front, and they made those kids laugh at me. And it's an amazing situation. It doesn't make me cry. It doesn't do it. It's just amazing. I don't know why that didn't bother me, but it taught me a lesson.
But it stays with you.
But it stayed with me all that time. Right. Maybe you can do you have a spin on that?
Yeah, lots of people have lots of experiences in their lives that they're carrying forward into their adult lives that are traumatic. In a big study called the Adverse Childhood Experiences Study, Adverse A, Childhood C, E Experiences, ACE study, they looked at 17,000 adults, and they charted the the correlation between traumatic events as a child and disease, cancer, heart disease, diabetes, bone fractures, suicide attempts, smoking. And they found there was a much, much higher incidence of these diseases for those people who had lots and lots of traumatic events as children. So what's happening is, if we have these traumatic events, if we don't have some kind of catharsis, if we don't release that energy, we don't process them using tools like meditation, mindfulness, EFT, and so on, if we don't process those childhood traumas, they can have a dramatic effect on our lives as adults.
I think
the age in that study, the average age of the people in that study was 57 years old. So those bad things happened to them 50 years before. Then half a century later, they're showing up in the hospital with more cancer, more heart disease, more high blood pressure, and so on. So I'm on a crusade to really get these therapies into primary care to clean up all that old stuff, so we don't have adults showing up with unnecessary diseases brought on by emotional trauma.
So now, where can people find out about this, Dawson? I mean, is there a place that they sign up, like online, or they can find out information about this or read about this? Do you have a book about it?
Yeah, I have books on it, and I have a huge website, one of the biggest alternative medicine websites on the web. But the simplest thing is, there's a free download of the manual for how to do EFT, and it's at the website DawsonGift.com. It's my name, DAWSON, DawsonGift.com. There's a free mini manual there.
Oh, I love
Download that. You do EFT in about 5 minutes. It's so easy to do. It's just using pressure on your acupoints while you think of traumatic memory, and you'll feel a change in your body just like that. So
everybody download this right away. I want to download it.
Yeah, me too.
www.DawsonGift, DAWSON gift.com. That's a wonderful gift to give out to everybody, because, you know, there may be parents out there that can even help their children as they're growing up, you know, to recognize these things, you know, as they're growing up, that how these traumatic things can, you know, my dad, when I was a kid, and you know, some of these things may not seem like a big deal, and but I remember my dad would do something, and I stepped on two big nails, those big thick nails, you know, out in the backyard, because my dad was working out there on something, and I walked out, and I got both feet, boom, boom, ow, right? So I'm screaming, I guess. And he said, "Oh, did you bend my nails? Well, my poor nails. Oh my," you know, like he deflected, right? Tried to deflect, you know, what it was. Of course, I was, you know, upset and crying because I stepped on these nails. Things like that, like throughout my childhood, he would do. But to him, what he was trying to do was make me feel better about it and not cry. But you're right. There's a part of you that feels like, you know, you can't, you know, you're not supposed to cry. You're not supposed to show your emotions. You're not supposed to be upset. But, you know, also those are things that also drive us and help us to be adults too, and to learn how to deal with issues that happen to us.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because my father did the same. I hook, eat, school, Dawson. And my father wanted to show me the Jesus Christ experience. So he takes me out in the yard and he hangs me on a cross. He nailed my hands and my feet. And I hung there for 3 days. Yeah. And he said, "Did you learn your lesson?" I said, "Yeah, Pop." I said, "Now pull the nails out." Go ahead, sweetheart.
Okay, so Dawson.
Who's on the line?
Hold on just a second, Dawson. Okay, if you're just tuning in now, you're listening to Sandy Kastel and Friends Variety Show with Chef Michael, and we haven't heard a recipe yet. Oh my gosh, we got to get Dawson. We got to find out what his favorite Italian recipe is, Michael. You're going to have to ask him.
Good, I hope it ain't
Anyway,
lasagna.
We'll be right back after a message from our sponsors.
Hang on, Dawson. Hang up, buddy.
Your day. This is Sandy Kastel and Friends. Here again, your host, Sandy Kastel.
Hi, and welcome back to Sandy Kastel and Friends Variety Show with Chef Michael. You know, I was trying to find the name of the golfer that's from South Africa.
Joe Madarazzi.
But I'm not seeing the name of the guy that I was looking for. But I think
Dawson, could you see us, buddy?
Yeah, he
I
can see
you
us.
fine. Can you see me okay?
Yeah, well,
we can't see you now because your back is turned to us,
right.
you know.
We got the back of the camera.
But that's because we're filming it. And
right, so that's what I was doing wrong.
Yeah, that's okay.
So when you get on when you get on YouTube today, you just put in today's date, Sandy Kastel, and today's date, and you'll
Sandy
see
what?
Sandy Kastel.
You don't even know my name?
No, but he has a great smile. I was watching him, and he looks great, and you look just like Brad Pitt.
You know, Dawson. Dawson, I think it's great what you're doing. Now, how did you get inspired, though, to do this? I mean, why are you doing this?
I was in book publishing most of my professional life, and I found myself getting more and more drawn into advocacy. I felt I couldn't be on the sidelines just watching and supporting people doing this. I had to try and make it happen. So I began to raise money. I began to put together teams to deliver practical help to veterans. I began to do randomized controlled trials. 2 times now I've testified before congressional committees, and I've gone from being an observer to being a real advocate. I think that we need to do something about this problem quickly. It took us like 30, 40 years to start to get help to Vietnam veterans. That length of time, that lag between them coming back from Vietnam and being spat on and disregarded and not getting proper treatment, even having being told the problem's all in their mind.
Was that the first time? That was a
national disgrace.
Was that the first time in the history that had been done
with our current group of Iraq and Afghanistan veterans?
Well, Dawson, was that the first time that the military or the veterans had come back and that had happened? I mean, I'm not a history.
Yes.
I don't know if it is, but I think it was.
Because the Vietnam War, it was a war that nobody wanted to get into. When you talk about when they bombed Pearl Harbor, everybody enlisted. It was an attack. And it's funny, the Japanese, 70-something years ago came with bombs to take over America, and they lost. So they said, no, what we're going to do? We're going to buy them out. So they came back 70 years later with pockets full of money. They own, Empire State Building. They own Hawaii. So they were pretty smart. They came out with their cars that never break down.
They've also been very innovative,
Of course they did. Of course they did. They did a lot. Because, they say the Italians, when Mussolini went with Hitler, the Italian people, my grandfather said, he
they
was in
didn't
the
want to
war.
fight.
He said,
They didn't
my
want to
cousins
fight.
over there. And we only fought one day because Mussolini was the guy that convinced Italy to fight. That's why there was the joke. They said, we have an Italian gun. It was only fired once. As it was a joke that we did. And it was very difficult for the Italian people to come to America, because we were here. We were saying, I'm an American Italian. I'm not an Italian. People say, I'm an Italian American. I'm not. An Italian American is the guy who was born in Italy. I'm born in America. Right. My mother my grandparents were from Italy. So I'm like second generation. So we are American Italians. Now, I have I'm full-blooded Italian. There was nothing mixed with me at all. I was the one that broke the bloodline when I got married, and I married Irish. Now, today, there's all interracial. They're Irish, German. Everybody it's all interracial, different type of nationalities that are mixed together. But my day, when you go back in the 50s and the 40s, if you were Italian, you married an Italian girl. The Irish married, that's the way they worked.
Yes, and what does this have to do with
well, I'm just letting you know what's going on.
But what you were starting to talk about is that the fact is that it's traumatic enough.
Yes,
it's a traumatic enough being in the war, being over there, having to be taught how to fight. People, especially and the locations. The Vietnam War was such a different type of a war for everybody involved.
Well, Dawson,
and you're right. So then they came back and they were not treated with the same respect after they were out there feeling like they were doing something right, and so that had a big effect on them. And like you said, what was it, 30 years before, or 50? Did you say 30 or
30 years, 40 years?
30 years before there was any recognition about working with them.
Look fine when they come back. Like I have a friend who's a psychiatrist at Walter Reed, and he got back. He was in the Battle of Fallujah in 2004, 10 years ago, and he got back and he felt fine. He looked fine. He was a handsome young man. He was very articulate. He's a psychiatrist, is smart. And after about 6 months, a friend of his said to him, something's not quite right about you. And he said, no, I'm fine. But eventually, enough people said that, or he looked at himself and realized he was starting to develop the symptoms of PTSD. Often they don't show, it's called delayed onset PTSD. Often it doesn't show up for 5 years or even 10 years. I have one friend who's a colonel, who was colonel in Vietnam, and he said, I don't have PTSD. 35 years later, he woke up one night and he had his hands around his wife's neck and he was strangling her in his sleep. He then said, I have a problem with PTSD. He got treatment in our program. His numbers, his symptoms totally went away. So those are the kinds of people we need to reach, not 35 years later when they're struggling, when they're homeless, when they're jobless, when they're addicted, when they're in a cycle of domestic violence and unemployment. We don't want to wait till that's true of our current young American heroes.
So what are you doing? So how are you trying to get them involved the minute they get back?
I'm fighting my own battle with the VA, because the Veterans Administration is this huge, massive bureaucracy, and that's why I've had those congressional hearings. We've had congressmen knocking at their doors saying, hey, you guys, wake up. You got to get these effective treatments to veterans. But the VA has been saying, no way. So like the guy who used to run it, Eric Shinseki, he was one of the major obstacles to getting our methods in there. So there's a lot of institutional inertia to getting good medicine in to people who need it.
Well, my grandfather was in the war. And then I said to him, Pop, I says, why the Italians? Why did we lose the war? And it bothered him for years. And I want to tell you this, Dawson, so if anybody asks you back in the 40s, he went to Italy, and he was in Italy. He was fighting. It was one day. They're up the front lines, and they're shooting. And General Antonio Andolini, the greatest general, the Italian general ever walked the face of the earth, they ran out of ammunition. And the general said to the troops, bring up the shells. And these guys bought up a box of Renzoni. So that's the reason why, Doss, we lost the war in Italy. I want you to know.
I think, Dawson, the other thing that's good.
Reason why the Italians lost the war.
I think that they need a dose of Michael Leonetti too.
We worked with one guy in our project, and when I got his numbers across my desk, he was 83 years old, and he had been a German SS officer in World War II. And I was really disturbed that we'd even taken him into the project, because I thought, for one thing, he's probably committed atrocities in the war. Second thing is PTSD levels are like redlining it. I mean, this guy has such high PTSD levels, and I thought he's had PTSD for 60 years. How can he possibly be improved by EFT sessions? His PTSD levels plummeted way down as well, as he dealt with all of the atrocities he committed in the war.
How do you know they plummeted? How can you
people
tell?
Have seen things, maybe even Americans have done things that will haunt them for years.
Dawson.
And they get free of those memories, as can all of those concerned, if they go through these kinds of rapid and useful treatment programs.
Dawson, how do you measure this? How do you measure, if you said that their PTSD scales went down? How do you measure that?
It's easy, and you can do it yourself. There's a questionnaire, 17 items, called the PCL, PTSD checklist. You can just go online and fill it out yourself. It'll score you right away as to what your level of PTSD is if you have PTSD. And so this is a great form. It's used in all of our research, used by the VA, used by the Defense Department. And there's some problems that are hard to measure, like traumatic brain injury is really hard to measure. There are no good agreed standards for traumatic brain injury, but for PTSD, and for pain, other things like that, they're really good measures. So look for the PCL, PTSD checklist.
Okay. All right.
Dawson, I want to personally thank you for coming on the air. We have almost 90,000 listeners. We're the #1 talk show radio variety show in Las Vegas. There's nobody listens to this radio station more than the people that listen to Sandy and I. And I'll tell you the reason why they do that is because the kind of people like yourself. I was with a friend of mine yesterday, and he said to me, Mike, he says, your radio show and Sandy's, now see it's Sandy's radio show, but
it's really Michael's.
It's not mine. She's full of But the radio show, it has so much information. It ain't just variety. It ain't just comedy. It ain't just tears. It's like you coming on here, and it's so important, and that's why we give you that quality
it's
time.
It's an important message.
And they give you an hour. You know what I'm trying to say to you? Because what happens, people come on, you're on for 4 or 5 minutes. Okay, Dawes, thanks a lot, buddy. Merry Christmas. And people didn't have a clue what the hell you were talking about.
Right.
So we feel as though between what you said here, the information that Sandy and I are putting out so people can look at it, then these people can get on YouTube and see your handsome smile smile, which is nice. You're a very nice man. You haven't stopped smiling. John's looking at you. And we have a guy here that was in the Army. He was a cross-dresser, which is great. And we don't care because he likes to wear high heels and a gun. But I'm only teasing you. But the thing is, the fun that we have on this show, and I want to thank you because it's great. I love guys like you that come on this show and give out such content. There's so much substance to what you say.
But not only that, this sounds like it's something for all of us to check out.
Yes, of course. It ain't just Vietnam people. It's just everybody.
And not just veterans, but it's so important for us to support and to help the veterans so that they don't lose their lives just withering away and getting lost with this PTSD disorder or whatever. Because like you said, they may think they're okay and they may be shoving down all of that stuff and it may seem like they're okay on the outside, but like you said, it's almost like you want to implement this program the minute they get back from fighting in a war or being over there or being exposed to a lot of things that people are not exposed to all the time. And but even for someone like myself or somebody that is maybe wants to check this out and just maintain good health, it would be good to check out this at www.dawsongift.com. Check out this free manual, pick it up, take the test, the PTSD checklist. Check it out and see if maybe there's something from your checklist from your childhood that continues to haunt you in some way, shape, or form. Maybe you don't realize it, but maybe you're feeling lost. Maybe you are struggling with some kind of some challenges in your life, and maybe you don't know why you act out in aggressive behavior, and you wonder, why am I doing this? Well, maybe it's because you have PTSD in some way, shape, or form from things that you've gone through in your life.
One other thing to bear in mind is that PTSD is a psychological condition, but it is also measurable in our physiology. And I did one large randomized controlled trial published in the oldest peer-reviewed psychiatry journal in America that had to do with our main stress hormone, which is cortisol.
Yes.
So you have this fast-acting stress hormone, adrenaline, slow-acting one called cortisol. And what we find is that many people today have really unnecessarily high levels of cortisol. So the stress hormone in their bodies is high. They're stressed by finances. They're stressed by relationships. They're stressed by their kids. They're stressed by their parents. They're stressed by all kinds of environmental factors. And what the result is that they have high levels of cortisol. And if you have high levels of cortisol, Sandy, for years and years and years, among the results are high blood pressure, osteoporosis, loss of bone density, loss of muscle mass, loss of cognitive function, all kinds of problems as a result
weight gain.
of having high cortisol. So what we've done is we did one clinical trial. We looked at cortisol, compared it to 1 hour of EFT, 1 hour of talk therapy, 1 hour of rest. We found a dramatic drop in cortisol after EFT. But that's the main thing to be aware of. When you're feeling stressed, when you're feeling a sense of pressure, when you're feeling a sense of urgency, that's your cortisol rising. It is so important to bring it down to a normal level. Many of us are on way, we're revved up way too high, and we're stuck in fifth gear. And we need to just learn to relax, learn to throttle back, learn to enjoy ourselves, learn to breathe, and bring those cortisol levels down so we don't have all of those bad consequences later on in our lives.
That's right.
Yes, I agree.
Well, thank you so much, Dawson, for being on our show. I really appreciate it. And I'd love to hear more. And, we should have you back on in about a month or so, after the beginning of the year. Let's talk a little bit more about this, because I know that our listeners out there are very excited about this and are going to be very excited, especially once they go to your website, www.dawsongift.com. Check out that free manual and take that test. I'm curious. I'm going to check it out. So thank you, Dawson Church, for being a guest here. We really love you.
All the best to both of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Dawson.
Bye.
What a nice guy. See what I'm trying to say?
I know, but we never got his favorite Italian restaurant.
Well, I got to tell you something.
But that's okay, because he really wanted to get his message out. And, it's more important. And it was important. And you know what? We're not going to go to a break right now. We're just going to keep talking. Yeah. Because I know that you want to talk a little bit about some kind of menu. Come on. Our listeners are out there waiting to hear what you're going to tell them about today. And I want to hear something new. Something new. What haven't you shared with us? What about some of those dishes that you make with all the sea fish and the shellfish and stuff? Tell us how to make that.
Well, let's go frutti di mare.
Frutti di mare.
Frutti di mare, mannaggia che
That's what I want to hear about. The frutti di mare. What are you getting stuck on the da?
Frutti di mare. Frutti di mare means fruit of the sea. Di mare means sea, ladies and gentlemen. Di mare. That's sea.
Yes.
Frutta di mare, fruit from the sea.
Oh, the fruit of the sea.
You know, you go to Smith's, ladies and gentlemen.
I get it now.
You go to Smith's.
Oh,
okay.
I
and
never
you go,
realized.
Yeah,
that's
you go ask for Mike the Butcher, and I'm going to tell you something. Their seafood is to die for. Now, for fresh.
Hi, Mike.
Hi, Mike. For fresh seafood, I always go to the Chinese market on I do. I go to on Spring Mountain. And they got, I'm telling you, folks, they got the Dungeness
Smith
crab.
has fresh, too.
No, it's all frozen that come in.
It's all frozen.
It's all frozen. But they got the regular tanks. You'll see them moving around and stuff.
The live things.
The live clams on a half shell, the mussels.
And and
that's our Christmas.
Okay.
That's our Christmas. Because I talked to
Is that
George.
what we're going to have for dinner?
Well, George Polaris.
And some meatballs.
I got to make the meatballs for this kid. That's what he likes, and I'll make him little chicken cutlets. But it's going to be a fish night. It's going to be like the lobster.
I'm so excited. I can't wait.
I'm going to do shrimp scampi. I'm going to do a beautiful galamad. I love galamad, stuffed galamad. We got to go.
What's galamad?
Galamad. That's the calamari, as you know.
Calamari.
But this is But I got to go. I have to go to the Chinese market because they have them. And then what you do is you stuff them. It's a bread stuffing with an egg. You'll love it, Sandy.
Can I make the stuffing?
Yeah, you can do it.
Can you show me how to do it?
You do. You're much better cook than I am, and that's what I'm going to make for the. That's what I'm going to make for the holidays. I got to tell you.
Can we get it on camera?
Can I have some music?
Can we get it on
when
for
I'm
the show?
talking, there's no music.
Can we get it on for the TV show for the holidays?
Well, we can do that.
You think maybe we could do that?
We can do that at the show.
Kind of messy,
No, it's not really. It's very simple to make.
Oh,
not the calamari.
You always make a mess.
No, I do. But we will do. Well, that's what I'm going to do, and we're going to shoot.
You're going to go to the TV channel and do it?
Yes, and I think that'll be because Mrs. Pasco.
We're going to get Dale's hands messy,
Dr.
and
Perry,
Betsy Ann's hands
and
messy.
Diana Perry, and Dr. Pasco.
And Diana.
Anyway, I want to wish Carl Grasso congratulations.
Oh, Carl Grasso got a new car.
He bought a 1959.
Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful.
A 59 Gunga Din.
Yeah, it's really cherry too. You should
gorgeous.
see the finish.
You got to see it. It's got the big white wall tires on it. This guy's living in the past. I said, buy a new car.
But
Why
he's
should
got
I?
that really big trunk to put all his money in.
Yeah, right. You know what I mean? But anyway, we're going to his house for New Year's Eve. I'm going to drink and just take about 400 of my most intimate friends.
The Grossos are having a big New Year's Eve party. I know.
Yeah, we got to stop by to bring in the new year with wonderful people.
We've got a big party coming up this weekend.
Yes, Saturday is the bigger reception.
Saturday
is the busiest night of the week. Yeah, you son of a mother. Anyway, it's Sandy's birthday.
Saturday, 6 to 9 p.m.
6 to 9 p.m. Dick Kastel's going to be there with the jazz band. Jimmy Melodor said, Mike, I'm going to bring my horn with Santo Savino, greatest drummer that ever walked the face of the earth. He was my drum teacher as a kid. He's still living. He's 147 years old. But no, I'm going to tease you. Yeah, honey.
You know what Dad's going to play?
What?
He's going to play some jazz.
Yeah, baby.
And you know what Mark Thompson's going to sing?
Jazz.
Some opera.
Yes, we're going.
So we were going to have opera. And jazz.
Jazz. $35 a ticket. Open bar. Food.
Oh my
Forget
God.
about it. You can't get a sandwich.
What are you going to make?
I think I'm going to do the sausage and peppers because we got. I'm going to tell you the truth. We got Cafe de Boo Boo.
Are you going to do this just the spicy, or are you going to do some mild so I can eat it too?
We're going to have a Cafe de Boo Boo. They're coming in and they're going to. And then also truffles and bacon with their hors d'oeuvres. It'll be really kind of nice.
Yeah, where are you, Pirko?
John Stiles will be there. Yeah, they forgot us.
You guys got to call us.
They forgot us.
They don't call in and give us their special.
They're big celebrities now. We made them famous. They forgot us. They dropped us like a bad habit.
What's their special with Cafe de Cebu?
Cafe de Cebu? Their pork belly. Their pork is the best. That's their specialty.
Li Chong.
Li Chong. What a sweet kid. Her and her husband. Two nice kids. And I told them if they don't behave themselves, I'm going to pull their green card.
Cece Spencer texted me the other day. She said, you know what? We miss you guys. We miss your Wednesday nights.
Yes, I know.
Playing music. And we were at the West Wing Cigar Lounge. We were at Sienna's Italian Authentic Trattoria.
Giancarlo.
We were at the Tuscany Grill. And speaking of the Tuscany Grill, this weekend, we've got the Tuscany Grill is going. Oh, no. Who do we have? Oh, the Canyon Gay Country Club is going to be featured in the TV show. Right. Also, we've got clips from our Staying Fit and Fabulous with Angelo Moyo over at the Backstage Dance Studio and Sherry Goldstein at the Yoga Sanctuary. Yes. So you got to check out the TV show. And I got to tell everybody, if you missed our TV show last weekend because not everybody has CenturyLink. Not everybody has, antennas on their roof.
But there's 300,000 people that watch it. See,
but there are 300,000 people who do. But if you did see it there, you can watch it on YouTube. I shared it on Facebook.
Right.
So go get that link on our Facebook page and be sure to like us. And we'll see you again here tomorrow on KLAV, 12:30 a.m. Bye. Have a great day. Check us out on YouTube this afternoon. Bye.
Yeah, and the views of opinions of Sandy is not mine.
Santa cutie and fill my stocking.